And my question is it a complete stranger's responsibility to hold up the moral compass for how people should be behaving? Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Life Uncut. I'm Laura.
I'm Brittany.
And if you guys listened to Thursday's episode, you would know that I wasn't on that ep.
Laura was MIA and we had producer Keisha.
Did you guys? I don't even know. I haven't listened to it.
We did the job, yes. We did put an episode
How
out.
was it?
That was great. Yeah.
More so, I don't even know what you said. Did you explain why I wasn't there?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes and no. I think we just kind of alluded. We just said that you needed to have some family time at the moment.
We just said you guys know Laura's had a lot going on with the family and she's
And then Brittany had a house fire.
Sorry, I
and
nearly
I
died.
tried to steal some chicken from Woolworths. So you missed a lot.
You actually-
really important, very vital information.
Yeah, you actually missed that. There was a house fire. I nearly died in my sleep.
I did see the picture of that. And speaking of death, that was terribly inconvenient,
I was
Britt.
giving you a segue.
Oh, fuck. Look, I mean, there's no other way to have this conversation. But you guys, I know normally we start these episodes and we're all light and it's all funny and ha-ha-has. But the reason why I wasn't here was because I did have some full-on family stuff. You guys know that over the last few months, I've been speaking about Neil, my stepdad, who has been in palliative care and he has terminal prostate cancer. So on Tuesday night last week, Neil passed away and yeah, it was really, look, it was really hard for the family. We're all kind of going through it now, but he is not in pain anymore.
Yeah.
And he fought right until the end. Like, my God, did that man fight? He was really convinced that he was going to get a miracle.
Yeah.
And I know we spoke about it a couple of months ago, but I really just wanted to reiterate it because so many of you were so amazing. You guys messaged and said that you had gone home and had conversations with your dads or your uncles or your husbands around whether they had had their prostates checked and, you know, just starting the conversation because it's such a weird thing to talk to the men in our lives about. It's not something that I think anyone has really ever sort of said or opened up that conversation and been like, hey, have you talked to your dad about his prostate?
I called my dad straight away and I was like, Dad, when was the last time you had a finger up your butt?
But you don't even have to have a finger at your butt.
No.
It's a blood test now that checks the PSA levels. You know, Neil's only in his 60s. Like, he's so young. He was diagnosed 9 years ago and by the time he was diagnosed, it was already stage 4. So at the time he was given 5 years to live, like when we found out his diagnosis. So he was on borrowed time and he lived for 9 years and 8.5 of those years were amazing, like really amazing.
But I guess that is the miracle, you know, because he got so much extra time that he didn't think he would have with you guys.
And he got to meet all of his grandchildren. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to reiterate, and I'm so sorry that you're listening to the start of this and I'm crying. I will pull my shit together.
No,
I wanted to reiterate that if you haven't had that conversation with the men in your life, don't just assume that they have done it because Neil hadn't. He hadn't gotten his checks done that he needed to. And there's this such immense sense of loss now because had he, maybe we would be in a different situation. Yeah, so please go and do that. And guys, sorry I wasn't here last Thursday, but you know, it was very sad times.
You need to learn to stop saying sorry. You don't need to apologize. And the fact that you're even here today is a marvel. Like, you absolutely did not have to be, but I understand that that's also how you work, which is to keep on keeping on.
It's not even that. I had this conversation with my sister because we spent last week with my mum and my sister and I have been tag teaming each other so that someone is with my mum. But when you run your own businesses, it's like the world just doesn't stop spinning. And I was saying this to you guys on the weekend, you kind of have the grief that you're dealing with and then you have the guilt that you still have to crack on with some things that otherwise don't get done. And
that seem frivolous at the time.
And I know to some people who are listening to this who maybe aren't in the position of running their own businesses or are in positions where they can just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a week off. And if that pisses you off, fucking deal with it. But it's been something that's been really hard. And so my sister and I have been trying to like manage and do the juggle and the dance between, you know, the work that needs to be done, especially over the weekend, because we had this, it's fucking terrible timing at this massive trade show. And it just was really sad. I was like, it was in this moment. I think we've had a few deaths in our family over the last couple of years. You guys might even remember like 2 weeks ago, I was like, well, my nan passed away. Now my dad's passed away.
You've had a very rough trot.
Yeah, but, you know, sometimes trying to do everything it feels like a lot. That's all.
And also you're a mum. That doesn't stop.
What? Where are
Like,
my children?
I have
mean,
kids.
To be honest, I think that was like the hardest part. So, I mean, not to go into too much information, but on Tuesday, so Neil had he had been in palliative care at home for a really long time. And then that became too much. And so he had gone into the hospital, which I think everyone realized that when he went into the hospital and had put the line in for morphine, that he would never come home again this time. But we were there all day on the Tuesday. They can't tell you how long it's going to take, like the process of end of life. They'll say it could be a day, it could be 4 days, it could be a week. Like you just don't know. And
It's like people's individual bodies
Totally,
deciding when they want to shut up shop.
And so we were there all day, me and my sister had been there in the morning, Neil's 2 children, Chris and Sarah, and my mum. And we just spent all day there by his side. And then in the afternoon, Sarah's also a mum with 2 little kids. And she left to go home to go and put the kids to bed. I left to go and put my kids to bed with the intention of coming straight back. And when I was on the way back, that's when I got the call. And so I still made it back in time to be with him, but I wasn't there when he passed away. And it was so hard because you're like trying to do all the things, but
Well, you're
anyway.
like, I've been here the whole time.
I've been here all day.
God damn it, Neil. Like, did you wait for me to leave?
Possibly, but I think there's such a unique situation in that, you know, your life is expected to go on as normal, especially if you have young children who you don't want to expose to things that are as dark and as heavy as this, and you have other responsibilities. And like you said, no matter whether it's a business that you run or whether you just have life responsibilities, like I think it's a very hard thing to navigate grief, caring for someone, and also life continuing on as normal, and how you do that dance of like get straight back into life as normal so that you can try and distract yourself from the grief, or do you sit in the grief and let yourself completely process it and assume that life can just pause? 'Cause, like it can't. These things can't. You can't have it in a binary way. It's got to kind of exist at the same time, and I think that's really, really hard for people who are expected to turn up to their job and be like, okay, I'm going to have a Teams meeting today and I'm going to try and not cry.
And I think as well, it's not linear, right? So even since Tuesday, I've had days that I didn't feel as much grief, and then I've had moments where it's just smacked me, and I feel so much for my mum. So like I said, mum's lost her mum and then she lost her husband all in the space of 10 days. So I kind of feel like we have to put everything that we feel aside because what she's going through is the biggest thing at the moment.
It's not even just a grief of losing someone in your life. The empathy that you feel for those around you that you know are hurting in a way more so than you, like a different kind of hurt. You know, it's your dad, stepdad, but he's been there since you were like 15.
They've been together for 20 years.
But it's her life partner. And so I know I haven't lost a parent, but I know what I would feel for my parent when one of them loses each other, like what I would feel like I would take on, you know, for your mum. So you're taking on, it's almost like 2 different kinds of grief in a way.
And I know that there will be some people who will relate to this because they've lost people that they love. And I know that there will be other people listening to this who haven't experienced this part of life yet, but it's a really fucking grim like reality that we are all at some point going to experience this. And I think one of the big things, and maybe I haven't handled this well yet, I really am unsure about how to talk about death with the kids.
Yeah.
Lola, I'm not worried about. She's 3. She kind of doesn't really process what's happening. But Marley's a real sensitive soul. And kind of we just had the conversation about Nana and I haven't told her yet about Far. So I'm going to tell her tonight. But that's been really tricky because I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know what the right process is for helping a kid understand that they're not around anymore.
What did you tell her about your nan?
So we're not religious in our household. So, you know, I grew up very much knowing or believing that there was a heaven and a hell. And so that kind of really put death into perspective. I remember when my great nana died and my mum was like, she's dead now. You can't come to the funeral. She's in heaven. And I was like, wow, heaven sounds great. But because that's not something that we believe in, and, you know, I grew up to form my own beliefs. And I don't know what I believe in. That's the problem. So we've always had the process so far. We say that Papa he's in the stars, he's watching over us. He's not here, we can't see him, but he's always around us. And I think Marley understands that to some extent. But then sometimes, for example, so if we're in the car and it's a cloudy day, she'll burst out. So it's nighttime, right? It's a cloudy night and you can't see the stars. She'll burst out crying because she'll be like, Papa can't see me. He doesn't know where I am. It's so...
You really gonna push me.
And she didn't even really know Papa. She only met him when she was really little, but Far has been such a huge part of her life for 5 years. And so this one will be very different to explain to her, that's all.
I mean, I'm not religious at all, but I'm only really thinking about this for the first time now because we're having this conversation. Not religious, but I would be explaining this to a small child in my life, like heaven. I think I would still say heaven, and I think that's because it's just a nice belief of the next part of life. And I think for a child, it's nice to know that there's like another world, and I guess you can explain that however you want. Like they've moved on to their next chapter. But it's funny if a not religious person, I would say that. I would even say that comment now to somebody. I'd say, oh, well, they're in heaven now, which is weird because I don't believe in.
It's hard because, you know, I think as a culture, especially if you're not religious, I personally feel as though death is easier to process, perhaps, if you believe that there is an afterlife, that there is something else coming.
I agree.
And I think it's very hard when you believe, you know, I'm agnostic, and I feel very similarly to you, and I would feel conflicted telling my kids something that I didn't personally believe, even though it would make that experience easier. Then what happens when it gets to the point where you're like, well, you're able to make your own decisions about what you think happens. I don't have any advice. I can just relate to how complex it would be.
Yeah.
We are not child psychologists. If you are one and
Believe it or not.
I mean, you have very limited time to slide into my DMs because this conversation is happening very soon. But yeah, I agree. I mean, we are very much as parents, we approach things as being as honest as possible and not trying to buffer things in a way that kind of sit too far in like the make believe. And that is not, I please do not, if you're a Christian, think that is me invalidating your beliefs in any way. But I'm just more saying that I don't want to talk about things and concepts that I don't necessarily strongly believe in. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for her, but I haven't worked up the courage myself to have the conversation, because every time I have it, I'm in tears, and I don't want that to scar her or to be sad. Anyway, it's a fucking whole thing, guys. It's all happening, and here we are at work talking about it.
But I think this is the right place to talk about it, to be honest.
Sorry, just say that again because I snorted straight into the microphone.
It's okay. Keep the snorting, Keisha. It's the surround sound.
You were inside my sinuses.
It is we really want to take you guys on a full journey here.
I don't think people have much understanding of how many times I cut out Laura being a little pug.
You guys don't know this. I have incredibly small
segue.
I have incredibly small sinuses, and I was supposed to have like sinus surgery when I was in my 20s. Never did. So I snort like 400 times a day. Matt says it's my anthem.
I'm almost at the start 5 years ago. It bothered me a lot because all I could hear in my head was mucus all day.
I do. I go,
and now
all
I
the time,
barely
100
notice.
times a day.
It's like a French bulldog.
The phlegm, sometimes you hear when the phlegm gets stuck at the back of your throat. And it's a real journey.
Guys, you're welcome, okay? I cut it all out, but we have to hear
now
it.
you know. Also, I was going to do it. But then I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'll just get the nose fixed as well. I mean, not that I need to, but I'll just get a little...
Bro.
And then this all happened post-Bachelor, and I was like, no one will ever believe I'm going to do it because I have sinus problems. So now I can't.
Why don't you get it at the same time as your labiectomy? Just get the whole lot.
From the bottom to the top.
Yeah, get the whole lot.
Just,
From the bottom
all
to
start
the
at the
holes.
toes.
Oh my
All the
God, from the
holes.
bottom to the top. Get the whole lot. Get the chop. Oh,
What
dear Lord.
on earth was
It
that?
was a wrap. It was a plastic surgery wrap.
To be fair, I was with a friend recently who did have rhinoplasty, and she didn't know. She did it for aesthetic reasons, but she got into the consultations and she realized that she had a deviated septum to the point that it was blocking a lot of her sinus.
So good.
So she got both done at the same time. So hers was for almost like the opposite reason. She wanted it for aesthetic purposes, ended up getting it for like physical purposes as well. And now she's like, people breathe like this?
That was what my sister. So my sister's hard of hearing. She wears hearing aids. That is what she said when she finally got hearing aids at 27. She put them in. And she's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Is that a bird?" And I I'll never forget going, you've never heard that? And she's like, I have. She's like, I said, what would you hear right now? She's like, nothing. Silence. I would think it was silent outside.
Sounds amazing.
It was just a bird in the tree being like, tweet, tweet, whatever it does. Wow. And she's like, I can't believe what I've been missing out on my whole life.
If you ever want to just like consume really wholesome content, anytime I feel really depressed about my life, I like to go and watch children who have had cochlear implants and have them turned on for the first
That's
time.
what I felt like watching Sherry.
If you want a really good cry. But no, look, a full circle around talking about Neil Landrum, he is and was an amazing man. He was a musician. He played every single brass instrument under the sun.
The bugle.
He did every Anzac Day. He was up playing the goddamn bugle. He was so instrumental. I know Wollongong's a small town, but he was so instrumental in like the Wollongong music scene.
Yeah.
He loved a Hawaiian shirt. He had the fucking worst dad jokes and dad puns that you've ever heard. And he fought so hard right until the very end. And yeah, we love you, Far.
We love
Peace
you.
out.
That's
Please
hard.
have Hawaiian shirts at
You
the
guys didn't
funeral.
see that, but
It has to be
Laura
themed.
just pieced out when she said she loves
They
you.
had a Hawaiian themed wedding and it's a Hawaiian themed funeral right until the end.
That is how I think of him when I think of him, is just the brightest, most glaring Hawaiian shirt possible. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw him without a Hawaiian shirt on.
It's all he owned. That was it.
Bless
that was
his
like
soul.
part of his
Has he
identity
been to
and his
Hawaii?
DNA. No, never.
Oh, love you, Neil.
He also fucking loved a beer. But like, I know I've said it so many times now, but I'll reiterate one last time. Whatever you're doing right now, send your dad a text and ask him if he's had his prostate checked.
Yeah.
And if he says like, that's weird, ask him again. And if he says he hasn't, badger him until he goes and gets it done.
And hug your loved ones. All I want to do now is drive up to Port Macquarie and see my parents.
Hawaiian shirts on for Neil.
Yeah.
Put your Hawaiian
Actually,
shirts out on your lawn.
Hang your Hawaiian shirts out for Far.
Oh, bless.
Britt, okay, I know I've taken the start of this, but you actually have some very, very cute and exciting news from the weekend.
It's hard.
And
It's
I am-
hard to
no,
come off that.
I'm fucking mad. I'm going to put it out there. So I'll tell you why I'm mad, because I feel like you are gatekeeping information that should never be gatekept from me.
Like the engagement.
No, the engagement I'm okay with. Like, that made
Yeah.
great content. For our videos, all for that.
Can I-
This part I'm not okay with.
There's a lot of pointing going on at this
We're
studio.
talking about wedding chat now.
Okay, before we get into that, I just want to say, Laura and I feel like are in each other's souls right now. So Laura and I have never in our life worn a black shirt with thumb holes to work. Never in our life. And today, out of 5 years, on the same day, we both woke up and thought, I'm going to put a long sleeve black shirt on with thumb holes and wear it to work. And so we both, it looks
I
like
feel left
we're,
out. Should I cut a circle? in
Laura,
my-
it looks like we're like here to,
Do you know what this one
here to
is?
mime.
This one's the Darling Shine bodysuit one, but here's a hot tip. I can't wear the shorts under jeans. It's too hectic for me, so I cut the shorts off.
So it's just now a top.
It's a top now, but I've got two of them. So I've got the bodysuit one and I've got a top.
Maybe they could make an alternative that's normal underwear on the bottom, and that can be the Life Uncut one.
They really need to make just a
Oh, yeah,
top
why don't
version.
they collab with Life Uncut now? Darling Shine, bye. No. We love you. We love you. Jokes. We love you. But
Elodie,
also,
Chloe, we love you guys.
anyway, your holes look great, Luz.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks.
Your sinus holes don't sound great, but at least your finger holes look good.
oh, one other thing.
Can we just talk about
Okay.
your wedding dress?
Yeah, okay. I tried on my first wedding dress. And I don't know if this is cringe or not. I wasn't expecting to feel much, to be honest. I thought that I was just going to try on a dress and be like, oh, I like that, or I like this, or whatever. Didn't overthink it. And I walked out. This is going to make me sound like such a wanker. I was just with my friend Kim, who also happens to be my stylist that I use, but we've been friends for 7 years. And I walked out, and it was this beautiful big room with like ceiling to floor mirrors that were like 20 meters long. It was a stunning room, and Kim was in the background. And I walked out and I caught myself in the mirror and I started crying. She's like, I look at myself. At myself. I'm such a beautiful bride. And then I looked around at Kim and she wasn't crying. I was like, Kim,
Fake it.
I was like, where are your tears? She was like, I'm sorry, I was just in like structure stylist mode. I was like,
Cry for me.
yeah, cry for me, hang a veil for me. No, I had tears in my eyes, and it wasn't, no, you fuckers. It wasn't because I thought I'm a beautiful bride.
Such a beautiful bride. I am so beautiful.
To be fair, you would have looked beautiful. We're taking
I
the
nailed
piss.
it for sure. It looked great, but that's not the point. It was just a moment of like
It's real.
I'm only crying because of you. But I was like, oh my God, like I actually found someone that wants to marry me.
He only sees you for 4 weeks a year, Britt. He
That's
doesn't know what
why.
you're really like.
That's why. That's why. The tears were in disbelief. Are we just going to cry this whole episode? No, I just had a real moment because, I don't know, it's like we've talked about it 1,000 times, but I'm not saying 37 is old. I am not saying that. But I have just battled with some red flags a long time.
You kiss some frogs.
And you do go through that treacherous mountain, the highs and the lows of thinking like, okay, it's not going to happen for me. That's fine. I'm so happy on my own. And then you meet someone and then you think that's it. And then it doesn't. Then you're like, okay, here we are again in the pond. I'm fine. But then to have found the person and know it's not easy for us. We don't see each other often and it's a real battle. But to feel like I have found the person. And it was the first moment I was like, oh, I'm actually getting married. Like, I'm going to have a husband. Because it's easy to be like, I'm getting married, whatever. But I haven't thought about it. We hadn't picked a venue or a date until a couple of days ago. And then so it was the first moment I was like, oh, this is happening.
Also, the wedding part, it is so exciting. But I also think when you're in the process of it, you then start to think about, well, then what does life look like after? Because the wedding is just a day, right? It's just a wedding. But then it's the marriage.
Britt's will be so much longer than one day.
Sorry,
we just
mine's
know.
going for 3 days.
It's the celebration of Britt.
We just know it's
The
38
festival.
hours.
It's going to be more than
No,
that.
it's going to be like 50 hours.
Okay, so back to the most important stuff. I know this is beautiful. I'm thrilled for the tears.
Well, I don't see any tears yet.
I haven't seen the dress, so I can't cry for you.
Did you
And
take
why-
photos?
I messaged Britt straight
Is the
away.
Pope Catholic?
So I messaged you straight away and I was like, show me the dress. And Britt's response was, I've decided I'm going to keep it a secret,
No, I said I think I might keep it a surprise.
which you've kept it a surprise so far. I still haven't seen it. And I feel dirty because I'm like, I showed you mine. It's like, I showed you mine, show me yours.
Spread it.
Show me holes.
I don't know. I feel like there's a part of me that was like, I've waited so long that I just want you bitches to be surprised.
So is this the one? Have you picked it?
One
no,
and
I
done.
don't think it's the, well, okay, put it this way. It's the first dress I've tried on and the only dress. I haven't tried another dress on yet. I just wanted to put it on.
You just went and put one dress on.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there
I
anything?
remember Laura talking about it, and I remember you saying that you had a certain idea of what you thought you would wear, and then you tried on quite a few that were in that style, and you realised that whether you suited a different style more or you just changed, your idea of what you wanted changed.
This is fun. What do you guys see me in? Let's play this game.
I only see you in this because you've already said what you wanted. You wanted something that was backless. So that was your
Did I?
original. Yeah, you said you wanted something backless. And I can't remember if you said high neck or not, but I think from memory it was high neck and backless.
But what do you see me in?
High neck and backless, because
Okay.
that's what you said.
Turtleneck. What if there's a fucking turtleneck? If there is a way to incorporate a turtleneck, I'm doing it.
I see you in something quite sleek, something quite like not figure hugging, but definitely like around the shape of your body. It would surprise me if you came out in like a cupcake or ball gown style, dress.
I agree, but I also think it's going to be lacy. I don't think it'll be sleek material. I think it's going to be lacy and decal-y and shit.
Decal-y?
Yeah, I love a decal-y and shit.
I don't know if you decal the wedding dress, do you?
Well, like, no, when I say decal, I mean it's like the lace. Like the decal is the
Done
lace.
Monty'd up.
No, lace is a type of... All right. Anyway.
Okay, so put it this way. I don't think it is the one, but that's only because I haven't tried anything else. Having said that, if I woke up on my wedding day and they were like, oh my God, this is the only dress you can wear, I'd be stoked. So like I loved it, but I think it's too soon to say the one.
To call it.
Yeah, so that's where I feel like I'm at. I of course want to try on loads more, and it was one style, so I want to try on different styles. But
It was one backless style with a
it was
high
one
neck.
turtleneck. It was a turtleneck.
I feel like I can read
Okay,
you.
I was at Zara.
So Britt flew to Melbourne on the weekend. She tried on wedding dresses, and now the next stop is to go to Bali to look at wedding venues. I'm stoked.
Yeah, so Keisha and I are heading to Bali in a couple of weeks on our joint birthday. So our
yeah,
birthday.
Britt's birthday present is that we're getting off at 4. We've got to get to the airport at 4:00 in the morning to fly off on our birthday. Although I am very excited.
Yeah, so we're
Be really
going.
nice.
It's a super quick trip, 4 days in Bali. We've got 1 day. Keisha doesn't even know this. Sorry. Happy birthday. We are going to look at a couple of venues. I know the one I want. I don't know if it's going to be available. And I think we're doing a food tasting as well, at a venue I don't even want, but
Sure.
we love a tasting.
We do love food.
Oh, they're not listening.
No, I'm joking. So that was it. That was the start of the wedding journey. But guys, what I will say is we only have one time of the year we can get married, and it's not that long away. So the wedding is not as far, it's under a year. It's not as far away as I would have probably liked, especially someone as disorganized as myself.
You do need to get him pinned down so if he can't change his mind. Like 9 months.
What, change your mind about me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, we've moved it forward to next week.
I found a dress.
Due to
It's next
Zara
Tuesday.
will do.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, Ben, it has to be next week. The date has been brought forward.
Now, Britt, I know that you are not a big TikToker. You're not someone who's on TikTok.
No, I have not been sucked into that vortex, and I am proud of that.
I mean, you did start an Instagram page. You started a TikTok page, and then it's got nothing on there.
I got
few followers.
I got
think
peer pressured to
you've got
start
like
it.
one post.
Yeah, I put peer pressured years ago. So I put one up, and then I was like, this is the worst.
You're like, I'm too old for this.
Not too old. It's just a
No way, too old.
cesspit. Like, there's so many mean people on there.
I mean, it works very differently to the way Instagram works. And I enjoy the storyline aspect of TikTok. Like, I enjoy how people create almost like mini series around what's happening in their lives. And I get sucked into the vortex of the doom scroll. But there's something that I have noticed quite a bit of. Now, this is not a new trend, but it is something that is increasing in popularity. And that is people exposing cheating on TikTok. There's 2 versions of it, which I find so fucking fascinating. There's people who are exposing their cheating exes. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago on radio, but then there's also another version of this that's emerged over the last couple of years, and that is people who think that they have witnessed cheating out in the public. Maybe they're at dinner, they overhear a conversation. It's almost as though it's a vigilante, and what they'll do is they will video the people who they think are cheating and then get the internet to do the work, right? And these sorts of viral they go so viral because people, I mean, firstly, we know just from doing this podcast, people fucking hate cheating. If there's anything in this world that people hate, it is cheating and being cheated on and people who cheat, right? Like,
Yeah,
there is
and
no
coffee's being like $7.
Yeah, it's really expensive coffees.
People that don't share their food.
But there is absolutely no grace for it. And even times when we've had conversations around cheating on the podcast, we have received negative feedback for ever even having reasons to, not to justify it, but to say that there's many shades of grey as to why people cheat.
Which
right?
I am going to double down on that, guys, and we'll talk about it. But cheating isn't black and white. I am going to say that. Come for me.
Okay,
Whatever.
all right. But in the instance, okay, so there's one that I found the other day and I was like so drawn into the cesspool that it was, the storyline. So it's put up by a woman whose TikTok handle is _it's.casey and it's called The Cheddar's Cheating, right? So she was at
the alliteration.
She was at yeah, it's real good. That was where it all started. That's why it went viral. So she was at a Cheddar's restaurant. She was sitting in a booth with her wife and she overheard a man sitting next to her having a conversation with a woman. Now, she realized that he had a wedding ring on. The woman he was speaking to did not have a wedding ring on. And they were talking about, well, the conversation they were having was around how he was married, his wife was away, and how they'd been friends for 20 years, but she had referred to him as her boyfriend. So it's all very, very suspicious. Have a little listen to this.
We're at the restaurant. We're eating. We're at Cheddar's. Girl walks in, sits in the booth beside us, says, I'll have whatever she's drinking. I'm waiting on my boyfriend. 10 minutes later, old dude walks in, sits down. They're chit-chatting, whatever. I notice he's wearing a wedding ring. I remember that she said she's waiting on her boyfriend. So we hear him say that they've been friends for 20 years and how she can't wait to meet his daughter in a couple weeks at Worlds of Fun. Apparently she's supposed to go to Kansas City. We have this all on recording. We recorded the whole thing. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like they were cheating because, well, why were you wearing a wedding ring? You're her boyfriend. She's not, it was just weird. I really don't know at this point. I was really just hoping somebody would see it, know, and it would just kind of be squashed. And then now, here we are. So it's still all open in the air right now. If I find anything out, I mean, I'm gonna let y'all know. But I'm not deleting the videos in case the wife needs them for whatever reason. So if you're the wife and you want them, you're more than welcome to them. But anyway, thanks for the support.
Thanks for the support. What a wank.
So she sat in this restaurant and she has filmed this man and woman. She has put their faces on TikTok for TikTok to do the work. TikTok does the work. Don't get me wrong. Like, people are such good investigators. Now, I have a few questions about this because on one hand, if I was in that situation and I genuinely thought a guy that was sitting at the table and his mistress were having an affair, I would be filled with some sort of rage. But there's so many conclusions that she has drawn without having the full picture, just from the little bits of information that she has heard. But she filmed him and put it on the internet. And I think that, like, I mean, firstly, the defamation part of that I think it really now to me feels as though some of these cheating exposés have gone beyond trying to do the right thing and like let the wife or the person who's being hurt in that relationship know. And it's actually all just for followers and content and engagement.
I have such a huge problem with this. I think that this is such an invasion of privacy and so disgusting. And there is no part of her that thinks she needs to go out there and be a woman's woman and save the world and figure out if they're cheating. She wants traction on TikTok. She wants followers. She wants comments. Let's be really real here. That is what she wants. There is nothing that I heard in that conversation that screams cheating or affair. They've been friends for 20 years. I'd be looking forward to meeting my friend's kid of 20 years too.
No, I think there was that's like the second video. The first video was definitely more damning, but funnily enough, even though she said she wasn't going to delete it, she did delete it. But I assume she deleted it because of defamation reasons. But the first video, you would assume from the storyline that there was cheating going on. But regardless of whether there is or isn't, I don't know. My question is it a complete stranger's responsibility to hold up the moral compass for how people should be behaving?
But you're also making an assumption that they're in a monogamous relationship and it's cheating. Let's look at relationships right now in 2024. There is no quote unquote normal relationship. There are open relationships. There are semi-open relationships. We had an interview here with a quad relationship, 4 people in a relationship.
Oh my God, please put that in the show notes. Like a quad is like 2 couples that came together and now they're 4 people who live together and have babies all together. It's
and they
crazy.
don't know who's the biological dads are because they decided for their relationship that they're all parents. So it didn't matter to them. But my point is, you're making such a huge assumption there that you know everything about this relationship, that it's wrong. Then the invasion of privacy to film their faces and film their conversation, a private conversation secretly, and throw it on the internet so you can get some clout is not right for me.
Well, I think the comment section to me was pretty revelatory. Like, the comment section was very divided. Some people are for it. Some people are for the call out culture around cheating. And one of those comments was, as a wife who was cheated on, thank you. I understand the wife might want to remain anonymous, but I felt like such a fool when I discovered my ex's affair. I was totally humiliated and so hurt. However, other people are like, mind your own business. So you put their lives on blast without knowing if it was cheating or not, or if the wife even wanted it to be public. I feel so conflicted about this because I think that there are instances where this type of vigilante move and putting something on social media, especially if the wife or partner can have anonymity, can be helpful. But I do think because in so many instances, this type of content has gone viral and it has been such a hugely engaged with piece of content, people are now using it opportunistically. Yeah, and it doesn't come from a place of like wanting to be a girl's girl. It comes from a place of their own selfish gain and motivation for how they can make a really 2-part, 3-part storyline on TikTok about it.
Yeah, and I want to be clear here. It's very situational. I think that if it's the right situation and the right relationship, that it's something that you should do is let somebody know that maybe their spouse is cheating on them. Maybe if you know them, better than a stranger at Cheddar's Cheese, which sounds like a terrible restaurant. I would never go to Cheddar's. But
Cheddar's, please don't sue us. I'm sure you're great.
But what I think about here is, if you don't know these people, you don't know the wife, you do not know what she would do with this information, but you've taken that away from her. If she found out that her partner was cheating on her, you don't know that they might want to keep that to themselves, that they might want to work through it, they might want to understand more about it, but you've taken that option from her. You have plastered it on the internet. You have made everyone aware before her of what is happening or possibly happening in her relationship.
In your bid to try and find her.
And in your bid to find her. Like, do you think that that is the right thing to do, to take that choice from her and take what could maybe be a very private situation that could have been resolved and, let's be real, humiliate her? That's what it's going to do.
I don't know. I feel maybe a little bit differently about it too. I don't have as strong feelings about it. I think that there are some instances where this can be positive. I don't think every instance is the same as this one. For example, there is a website, it's actually a Facebook page, and they had them in all different cities around the world, but it's Sis, Is This Your Man, right? I've been part of the group for a long time. I've seen it work in negative ways, and I've seen it work in really positive ways where it's been a tool to help women identify predatory men in their area. So, for example, some posts that might be put on Sis, Is This Your Man would be a woman who's had a terrible experience with a person on online dating. And I think the thing that it is different for me and what kind of stands out on that sort of Facebook account is that if somebody posts, and because it is kind of like doxing, right? Like you could put up something that may not have validity to it, right? You could put up something and say, this guy is such an asshole. He did this, this, and this to me, and fabricate a story. But it's actually the comments underneath that corroborate the story. So one that I saw not so long ago was a woman had posted a guy that she'd met with on online dating. She kind of wanted to know if anyone else had had any experiences with this man. And I think it was because she had gotten the feeling that maybe it was a bit off, like maybe he was a bit off, that she wasn't trusting her instincts. And so many women who had had really negative experiences with this man on online dating were like, oh my God, he's still around. He's still the same behavior. He stalked me for months. So I think in those instances, it can be beneficial. But for me, it's about the reason why. Like, why are you putting that out there? What is it that you want to gain from it? And do you actually genuinely want the person who has been cheated on or has been wronged to find out this information, or are you doing it for likes and engagement?
I saw a version of this on one of those Facebook pages. There are other ones that are called like, Are We Dating the Same Guy? Like they exist kind of across the world under different names. And I saw a version of this that I thought was the best version of how to do this. For starters, it was in one of the Facebook groups. So it was a closed group. It was an anonymous post. So this person was absolutely not trying to get clout whatsoever. Put up a photo of a group of 3 men. The caption was, they said the name of the hotel. I don't want to say because I'll get kicked out of the group again. I was at this particular hotel on Sunday at 3:30. And if this is your partner, the guy, and she described what he was wearing, I want you to reach out to me because not only is he cheating on you, but the friends around him are enabling it. They were speaking so negatively of you. It made me feel sick to my stomach. I did take a secret video of this so that I could show it to you. Please get in contact or find out who this is so that I'm able to send it to you because I just feel so sorry for the horrible way that he is speaking about you. They were mocking you and the fact that you believed the stories that he was telling you when, he was cheating on you.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I was like, that's the best version of this I've ever seen because that's someone who truly does actually want to go, you're being treated like shit and I want you to know the truth so that you can stop being with this loser.
But even in saying that, I mean, the outcome's still the same as what you say, Britt. You're still posting it online. The only way to find that person is by so many other people in her surrounding network to find her first.
And I think it's different when it's done like that as opposed to a fabricated story that this woman has made up in her head in Cheddars. She's heard a few pieces of information and put a whole story together, films them without their consent and plastered it over TikTok with allegations. Like that for me, I'm like, I'm sorry, but at a stretch, mate.
Also, when you're overhearing conversation, you don't get full context. But I do question though, if I was in a situation where I was sitting in a bar and I heard a guy talking about his wife or his girlfriend in a absolutely revolting way, or he was disclosing information that I thought was truly problematic, what would I do? How would I get justice for that person who I felt had been wronged so much? Would I just go home at nighttime and go, okay, well, I know, no idea who she is, nothing I can do about it? Or would I feel compelled to try and do something? I'm not sure. I've not been in that situation. I definitely wouldn't make a mini series about it on TikTok, but I do think that there is something that would need to be done. I wouldn't feel okay with just going home, going to bed.
I'd probably say something to him, to be honest. If I overheard someone talking like that if they were sitting right next to me, plain as day, I would probably say something to them for sure.
That's an interesting point though. Do you think that if this becomes the norm, if so many people are outed, if so many cheaters are outed on social media, do you think that cheaters will think twice about cheating?
No, they'll just...
fuck no.
No.
No
they'll
one
just
thinks
do
twice.
it
No.
better.
cheating has increased because of how easy it is to do because of social media, because of online dating. Like cheating has certainly not decreased in time, and people's will to cheat hasn't changed. I just think people have found new creative ways to do it. That's all. Like back in the day, you'd have to go to a hotel and organize a time on your landline, and now you can find some hot chick on Instagram and slide into their DMs. Like the ease of cheating and it has, I think, has become more accessible.
And also not wearing a ring. Like she wasn't wearing a ring. I always am not wearing my ring. I always would take my ring off to go to the gym or something.
I do find you very suspicious.
But you know what I mean? Like, and I have a lot of male friends. If I took my ring off because I went to the gym and then I went to lunch after and met my friend who I'm very close with, a guy who's very good looking, I would hug him. Hello, we are very close. We'd probably hold hands across the table if we were like having a moment being like, I'm so proud of you or whatever. If you were looking at, I'm just trying to think of one particular friendship I have. If you were looking at us from the outside, you would 100% think we were together. And if you didn't know me well, but you knew sort of, my situation, you'd probably be like, is Brittany doing the dirty? You would probably think the same thing.
Yeah, I wish I had the audio from the deleted TikTok, the very first one, because it definitely was more damning than just that. She was talking about how she had a husband named Travis and she was so like happy that she wasn't in the situation that he was in, having to break the news to him, So
that's different.
So there was more. That's what I'm saying. It definitely had all of the ingredients to be a cheating situation. But I think regardless of whether it was interpreted poorly or not, the big question is whether it's appropriate to blast someone else's personal life on a social media platform in the bid to find the person that you think has been wronged.
Yeah.
And it's just such an interesting place that we found ourselves in the age of social media, that this is content that we love to consume. And that's why it's blowing up. That's why it's going so viral, because we fucking love the drama of it.
I think also if it's someone who has been cheated on, there would be an element of them exposing a different cheater, of getting a bit of justice for their own situation, of getting a little bit of closure, of being like, I fucking wish that this happened to the person who did this to me and that they were humiliated publicly. I guess it depends on the intentions of the person who's creating the content. And that's such a hard thing because you can have multiple intentions in the exact same situation. You can have the intention of wanting this person to face the music of their actions, but you can also kind of be like, I want to get a little bit of closure from when I was mistreated. And
I remember, I guess if you're going to do it, commit to it. This is what I'm about to say. But
Britt's come full circle. She's like, dox them.
No, because I still stand by what I said. But I remember my psychopath ex. I remember getting a DM from like a random account that had obviously made the account to contact me. They didn't want to be known. And they were like, just want to let you know he's cheating on you, whatever. And he was, right? But I didn't know that. So
You believed him?
Well, yeah. So I was like, okay, loser, like anonymous person. So I wrote back to her and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Send me what you know. I don't want to say anymore. I'm like, so you've gone to the effort to just say, hey, your boyfriend's cheating. And then that's it. When I've asked you any details, any facts to like corroborate the story, there's nothing. I guess my point is like, if you are going to go to that effort, do it like the story Keisha said, where it's like, hey, like I want to let you know this. I'm not going to humiliate you completely. I do have stuff if you want to talk to me privately, and I'll help you figure out where. Because if that girl had actually spoken to me about what she knew, and there was a bit of evidence, maybe I wouldn't have gone through the trauma that I went through for the next 2 years.
Yeah, but that's just an incredibly immature way to deal with it. We actually had an Ask Uncut not that long ago. Somebody got to their car one day and found a note on their car and it was like, your boyfriend's cheating on you. And our advice in that instance was believe your boyfriend over a note that 100%. Has no context. So my advice is the same. It's the same thing we discussed on that Ask Uncut. If you're going to tell someone that they've been cheated on, if you feel like you need to take the moral high road, then you need to take the responsibility to give the information, and you also need to take the responsibility to do the aftercare, because that person's life has just come crashing down, their identity, the things that they love, what they thought they knew in that person, and you can't just drop that bomb and then not be there to make sure that they're okay. It doesn't work like that.
I think also, especially in Australia where we have such tight defamation laws, if you're going to do this kind of thing, you want to be sure.
Yeah.
You want to be absolutely sure that what you're posting is true, because if it's not and you've misinterpreted a situation and the person on the receiving end of it is able to prove that, you could face legal implications. I mean, most people are not going to go down that avenue, but it's possible. Like you can potentially very much upend someone's life in this type of situation, and without all of the vax, you could get some wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
who are you doing it for at the end of the day? That's the question. Okay, guys, accidentally unfiltered time. And I did have a little cackle at this one. On a meeting that was running 5 minutes over the expected time frame, I also want to mention it was a Friday afternoon at 5 p.m.
Grim.
Now, thinking that I was on mute, I said very loudly, "Hurry the fuck up, Karen."
Oh. Oh.
And then I looked down and realized that no, I definitely was not on mute. The sound was definitely on. And to top it off, the meeting was recorded. I haven't had the courage to look it back yet.
Jesus Christ. What do you do?
Oh, so is
Nothing
her name really
worse.
Karen? Because that
Nothing-
couldn't be better.
Fuck.
the
Nothing
fuck up,
worse than
Karen.
someone who doesn't stick to time. But honestly,
No, nothing worse than thinking that you're on mute.
that's happened to people before. We've had a really good accidentally unfiltered where someone farted thinking that.
It's
But do you know what happens? So if you're on Zoom or on FaceTime, and you know how you have like if you've got multiple people in the group. So you've got multiple people in the group, and then the person who's talking or making noise comes to the front.
Yeah.
So this girl wrote in an accidentally unfiltered story, thinking she was on mute, and she farted and her face just came to the front. So there's no way of hiding where the fart came from. Like, no
so
way.
funny.
Just-
Also, it was only a few weeks ago. I think I told you guys maybe I did it. Maybe I was going to take it to the grave.
I'll tell us now anyway.
But you know, I don't pass wind in front of Ben. I don't whiz pop
we know.
fart.
We know. It's so,
So
weird. Unleash
we're
it.
on FaceTime, and we just FaceTime sometimes for hours doing nothing. Like we'll cook together. We don't always talk. He'll be doing his stuff because we just like to be in each other's presence. And then like when something comes, we'll chime in. Anyway, I don't know if I thought I was on mute. I don't know if I forgot I was on FaceTime. I don't know what happened in that moment, but I did have a lapse in judgment, and I just let one rip, and it just ripped, and it was not cute and it was not soft. I still didn't clock it. I let it rip, and then I hear this, "Did you just fart?" And I was and my eyes were like, "What? No, what? No." He's like, "Yes, you did." He's like, "Did you forget I was here?" And then I didn't want to let him know that it was an accident, so I pretended I meant to, and I was
That's
like,
even dumber.
so dumb. I was like,
You
yeah,
like that?
I was like, yeah, I thought it was about time. Like,
You like that, you little bitch?
Yeah.
You like that?
yeah.
Just trying to spice things up.
Anyway, I was mortified.
It's
Mishap.
so normal in our life. It's so uneventful. A fart's just like, whatever.
Oh no, I remember every fart I've ever done.
It's as common as I love you in our household. We say
simultaneously.
We say I love you as like the end of sentences. I'll be like, gotta go, I love you. Like,
Yeah.
I love you is all the time.
I
And
do
that's
that.
as common as the farts are.
Well, then you need to eat some different food because farts shouldn't be that frequent.
I think people fart like 40 times a day. What's the average time that people fart? I'm going to look this up. It's very important
don't-
information.
Yeah.
10 to 20 times a day. You average 10 to 20 farts a day. Matt averages more by far.
It
I
says
reckon
more when
you're-
you eat certain foods that are more difficult to digest, like beans or raw vegetables.
Oh, Laura post MSG. Whew,
Wow.
you don't want to be
When
in that
I-
room.
India was not good to my guts, let me tell you. It took me about 3 weeks to recover.
Sometimes Laura's like, "You want to get tired tonight?" And I'm like, "No, thanks." 'Cause
Absolutely
I,
not.
well, I know where that's going to end up. It's going to end up the bugle. The
Oh,
bugle.
Ew. All right. Anyway, what is your suck and sweet for the week, Brittany Hockley?
My suck, well, in light of Laura's week, I had a great week. Like, I don't want to contribute to a suck this week because you probably had the suckiest week that you've had all year.
You can still have a suck.
Nah, you can't compare your week to.
Sucks are not a competition, Britt. We're not competing for the sucks.
Well, you win. You win. If it were
Yeah,
a
you're like, I
competition-
had a really bad day, and I'm like, well, my stepdad died.
Exactly. So we're not doing a suck this week. My sweet this week would have to be the fact that I locked in my wedding week, like my wedding my wedding day, but it is a week. So that
the
is
festival of Brittany and Ben.
yeah, and you're gonna cry.
I will cry for you.
Well, if you don't, I'll be upset.
I'll make sure that I'm front and center and I cry. I'll be right there.
It's
Crying.
gonna be a lot,
I can't.
I think. Anyway, that's my sweet.
All right. Well, look, I also, you guys know my suck for the week, but I do want to say my sweet. So Neil went into Bulli Palliative Care. That was the hospital. So we had a really shit experience a couple of months ago where Neil had to go into the hospital in Wollongong Hospital, and just the level of empathy that was given to someone in his situation was like, I was so disappointed, genuinely disappointed. I know that hospital staff are busy and it's overrun, and I get it. Like, I can only imagine how challenging that must be. But that experience in Wollongong Hospital gave me absolutely no hope for how this palliative care journey was going to be. But then Neil went to Bulli. It's a specialist palliative care unit there, and the nurses were amazing. They were so caring. They were so empathetic. The whole way in which they run that unit there was just really, really kind. And I think it had families at the forefront. And I, for that, am really grateful. I had one of the nurses from Bulli Hospital. She must be a listener to the podcast. If you're listening, thank you so much. But she slipped into my DMs the next day to say how sorry she was that Neil had passed away. And she didn't want to come and introduce herself because that would have, hi, I listened to your podcast.
Yeah, one of those, like, read the rooms.
It wasn't the time, but I really did appreciate the message the next day. And yeah, just how much they took such beautiful care of him and how he was comfortable regardless of it being so fucking horrible.
And I'm sure they would love to hear that. Like,
Yeah.
they would love to know that their work is appreciated because it's hard.
Like, what an amazing, I know we had hospice nurse Julie on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, which was an incredible episode. If you missed that and you have anyone in your life who is going through terminal or is palliative in palliative care, it's a truly amazing episode to listen to. But it takes a very special, unique person to work in that type of care because you deal with loss after loss after loss, and they must be just the most empathetic, kind people because that's everything that we experienced. It was amazing.
And the family's grief of the loss.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot. So that's a really nice suite.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was, I mean, in the time that Neil was in there was like 3 people who'd passed away. So it's like a very, I don't even know how they do it. I genuinely don't. But that was a small little glimmer of a highlight in a very, very sad week.
Well, we love you, Laws.
Yeah. And guys, go and check your prostates, literally.
If you have one.
And
Tell your mum, tell your dad, tell your dog, tell your friends, and share the love because
we love. Don't make me do it on my own.
I don't know. I was looking at you with like love eyes. I don't know why. That was weird.